Yeah.
Morning, everybody. It is 10 a.m., 8/18/2020, and I hereby call the meeting of the Story County Board of Supervisors to order. And we are originating from the Administration Building, and public access is being provided via Zoom, and that's because of the continued pandemic and the need to social distance. So I'm going to ask anybody who would like to, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I've already stated why we're not having an in-person meeting, and then I would entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Evans?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Merkin? Aye. Agenda's adopted. Next, updates on COVID-19. Any updates from staff regarding issues on COVID-19? How about supervisors?
Well, the only thing that I have, I mean, the numbers are skewed after an article came out yesterday of how some of the numbers are being backdated by months, but what I have is that as of today, there were 565 new cases, making it now a total of 52,917, 8 additional deaths, so we're at 987, and it looks like no changes in Story County as of yesterday, so still at 1,412. 15 deaths, and I guess the only change would be 6 hospitalizations yesterday. There were 4. That number may change. I'm finding that the numbers tend to change closer to 11 or 12. And again, with the article that came out of how reporting has been, their glitch in reporting, we may see some differing changes moving forward.
That was really discouraging, and that's why I gave up on looking at the IDPH website, because every time I looked at it and went back to historical numbers, they were changing, and I wondered, find out it's because when somebody tested negative at some time and then later on tested positive, maybe even months later, that positive went back not into recent numbers, but into the very first date. The date did not update. And now that when I saw that, I thought, well, that makes sense. I can understand why those numbers kept changing, but it wasn't. IDPH has been underestimating our new cases now for quite some time. So it's hard. It's very hard when we're trying to do database decision making and we have metrics that we're looking at our benchmarks when we realize that the data isn't good.
Right.
And I guess that's it. Anything else?
No.
Okay, public comment number 1. This comment period is for the public to address topics on today's agenda. If there's anybody who's listening in, a member of the public, and you want to say something, would you please either raise your hand via Zoom or unmute yourself on your cell phone and announce yourself. Okay, seeing nobody, we'll close public comment period number 1. We'll go on to discussion and consideration of items brought before the board with requests for immediate action. Are there any items needing immediate action? Hearing none, we'll go on to agency reports. And we have none. Then we'll go on to number 10, which is update on Story County Housing Study and Needs Assessment from RDG Planning and Design. Leanne Herder. Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning. My name is only on it just because I have been managing the project on the county's end. Actually, Charlie Cowell with RDG is on the line. I'm going to share my screen and then turn it over to Charlie if he's ready.
Thank you, Leanne. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you for allowing us to give an update on the housing study we're assisting Leanne and the county with on housing throughout the county, including all the communities, rural areas. We are excluding Ames in a lot of the analysis as well, but obviously Ames will be a part of a lot of our recommendations and items that we're going to be looking at. So today I just wanted to give a little update on where we're at. We have started meeting with the steering committee twice already and beginning those first stages of market data gathering and community input. Next slide. So our process, we are, like I said, starting off, yep, that's good, Leanne. Starting off with kind of our discovery phase. So this includes several things on the back end that we're doing, but also several things that we're going to be discovering from the community members as well. So we're beginning to gather data, historical data from building permits and construction permits to census data to other items related to COVID-19 and how that may be impacting housing in the future. Reviewing past plans, obviously those are, a lot of work has been done on a lot of plans already, and we'll be taking those into account when we look at the overall picture of housing in Story County. One thing we're in the midst of right now is identifying folks to participate in our listening sessions. This is something we do in every project, and actually is probably the most beneficial thing we do for us to learn about conditions in the community and what is going on. So we have these scheduled for the afternoons of September 2nd and 3rd, and these groups are identified based on expertise. So for example, realtors, builders and developers, economic development folks, and a variety of others. So feel free to pass along names if you think there is someone we should talk to about housing in Story County, and we certainly are able to do that. Obviously, these will all be virtual via Zoom, so we're not going to be doing those on site in a meeting room like we would typically do. So more information of that, those invitations to be sent out to those identified groups here soon.
Supervisor Olson, my question is, did we add a group specifically for people knowledgeable about housing for low income and disabled challenged?
Yep, we do. We have, in fact, I'll just list off all our groups here. We've identified builders and developers, realtors and lenders, community organizations, economic development, major employers and school districts. We have a group for low-income housing, disability services and special needs, seniors and young professionals, and then we'll be doing some as well with elected and appointed officials from each community.
Great, thank you.
And if you did not know, there is a survey out right now as well. We're up to about 170 responses so far on that survey. I believe it's linked on Facebook or some the city website as well for folks to take. And there's really no deadline on that. We'd like to kind of let that run at least through the listening sessions, and we'll probably be kind of gathering, consolidating all that in mid to late September to start to look at those results. So
Aware of that, at least I wasn't aware of that.
So which website is it on?
Yes, how could we let it happen and us not know? Okay, thank you. I must have missed the email. Thanks.
Is it on our Story County website?
It's on our website.
It's Charlie said city website, and I'm assuming.
oh yeah, sorry about that. I was defer to Leanne on which website that is on.
It's on the counter. I did a social media post last.
You think, okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So that will kind of lead us into, and these start to mesh together, identifying our issues and opportunities for housing and what those demand projections might look like, and then developing a toolkit of strategies. And this is thought of as kind of, obviously each community is going to have things that pertain to them that may be different from other communities, but there may be things that are very similar among the communities. So a consolidation of different strategies and examples of how these strategies are used in other communities will provide that as well. Next slide. So I kind of went into some of this already, but these are just kind of a few of the topics we start to look at and help us understand what might be happening in the future. Obviously, the kind of caveat in all of this is how COVID-19 and the current recession might impact housing in the near term. We've actually been working in several communities across the Midwest regarding currently, and we're hearing, at least from a housing perspective, that not much impact has been had. Demand for housing is still high in a lot of areas. Construction is still moving forward on a lot of things. So we're continuing to gather that information. This is something we'll especially look for in our listening sessions to talk about as well. Next slide. We will look specifically at affordability, like you mentioned. We actually do this in all our housing studies to analyze what price points maybe have gaps in housing, what price points are over surplus in housing, and how our strategies maybe need to target certain price points over others, and how we can do that. Obviously, constructing a home costs a certain amount of money, and that you can't really build a home for under a certain amount. So there's other strategies we will look at and recommend for how to make those other lower price points available. Next slide. Oh, yep.
And I just have a question on some of the verbs you're using. Starting, beginning, will, etc. So I'm getting the impression not much work has been done. Is my impression in error?
Yeah, correct. So we just started the housing study a couple, I think it was 2 months ago or so. So we've met with a steering committee twice to identify initially some of our targets and obviously get the survey out, review that survey, and gather listening sessions. So you're correct. We are right at the beginning of the process.
Will you still anticipate having one to us by, say, mid to late November?
Yep, that's definitely feasible. We're in August right now, so we'll be kind of wrapping up most of our community discussions in early September, and then we'll begin kind of through the middle of October, getting the demand projections, and then later October into the end of November, the strategies. So that is still on our target. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So I talked a little bit about the demand projection. This is kind of an example of what that may look like, but basically giving an average of what we see as the demand for new housing units per year. And that's based on a lot of things that we'll be diving into, from past growth trends to construction activity to what we see as rental versus owner occupancy needs. Next slide. So one thing, I mentioned all these things already and I kind of got ahead of myself, but this is something that we'll be basically focusing our beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September on, are these kind of gathering as much data as we can from people that live and work in the community. Obviously we don't, I am in Des Moines myself and am familiar with kind of the area, obviously, but obviously I don't have personal experiences to inform my decisions. So we're relying on a lot of that to tell us kind of what's happening on the ground and seeing if that matches with the data we're gathering. And if it doesn't match, then we need to kind of look at why that is and go from there. Next slide. So the survey is, like I said, is live. It's about a 15-minute survey for those that have not taken it. There is an option to provide open comments as well, and also submit your email and name if you would like to stay updated about the project. Again, this is very helpful for us because we can sort the survey based on different types of responses or demographics to see what the conditions are like for certain, whether it's income groups or owners versus renters. So please do help spread the word about that survey, and we'll continue to monitor our responses going forward. Next slide. Some of the types of things we start to identify going into it, we like to provide a series of strategies for policies and implementation actions, but we also like to kind of identify where our target opportunities are. So this will be done countywide or community by community. And really the goal of this is oftentimes we see some communities maybe identify, for example, if I use an example, rehabilitation program for homeowners, but it's applied in a large area of the city or a really large neighborhood. We actually find that if it's more targeted, it creates, those types of programs create more momentum, because it's maybe one block kind of takes advantage of the program, and it creates momentum going down the block for people. So we take a much more targeted approach to identifying where we see opportunities areas and where we would recommend maybe certain types of programs at.
So Charlie, what you're really doing is you're kind of reaffirming, right now what you're doing is you're reaffirming what you pitched to us when you were after the bid. Because this is not our data, correct?
No, these are examples from other communities. Yep.
Okay, I just want to be really clear so that no one gets confused. We're getting an update, but we're not really getting an update so much as we're re-getting parts of what you sold to us previously about what you said you would do. We're still hearing what you will do.
Yep, we're right at the beginning of the process. And so in your packet was some also kind of the things that we're identifying for issues and opportunities that we'll detail out in the plan as well. And this, like I said, a lot of this hinges on our survey results and our discussions, and not just data that we've uncovered as well.
Reiterate once again, Supervisor Olson, the absolute number one thing it sounds like we can do to help you right now is to robustly promote that survey online, correct?
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Leanne, you're going to be at KHOI tomorrow morning, and I just made myself a note, and I'll just say it now so we don't forget it, that you could let people know about this. You know, the only concern is we'll get a lot from Ames, perhaps, and it's really that we want people from the smaller communities and unincorporated areas.
So I think we need to, we could pitch it at the jurisdictional meeting, although we're not having good attendance at some of those jurisdictional meetings on Thursday night. KSI, somebody needs to do an interview on KSI about this. I know Mel's looking for that will get out to more of the county. Also, it might be time to contact the country station in Marshalltown that a lot of people listen to. Maybe even if KSI could get a news story out or whatever. I think we really need to be pushing this.
Charlie, I know you're not, this is Linda Merkin, I know you're not finished yet with your presentation. But let me ask you, because this comes in line, because we're talking about when the report will be here and what's been done so far. Do you have some timeline that you could share with us? Just a simple timeline that's going to show the steps that you're working on and how that they lead up to this report getting to us in November?
Yeah, I can share it. I don't know if I have the ability to share my screen here, but I'll pull it up. One thing I heard someone mention with the survey regarding Ames respondents, we certainly obviously are going to be looking at the county areas, but if folks from Ames do fill it out, that is fine. We can filter those responses out in our kind of final analysis. But there may be people that live in Ames that have maybe want to live in a smaller community in the county, so they would have some information on the market, what if they've been looking, what they're seeing. So just to be aware that is something we can filter out.
And we are fortunate in this county that we have a daily paper, plus we have 3 separate weeklies who I'm sure would like to do an article if they were made aware of it. So thank you. Yes.
Charlie, I did stop sharing if you want to try sharing.
Yeah, I'm looking to pull it up here. Of course, it's probably buried in my in my files.
You can never find what's on your desktop when you need it, can you? Sorry
Right.
about that.
So let me see. So hopefully you can see what I have pulled up here. If not, let me know.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, so this is we don't have dates after actually put up with this, but we have kind of our stakeholder interviews and such. We're kind of in month 3 right now. So going into September, we'll be doing the survey analysis towards the end of the month, and we'll have that kind of a market analysis complete as well. So into October, opportunities map, the strategic assessment and programs, and then the draft plan available in November. We are going to be available, obviously, to do some public presentations of this as well after kind of that draft gets reviewed by everyone. Obviously, with COVID-19, we'll do kind of what we need to do to do it safely. We've done webinars to really great success, actually. It's worked out well, but we've also done social distanced presentations in a smaller format, not all that different than what you're doing right now, where folks can join online as well. So.
And Charlie, this is Supervisor Olson again, just to make you aware, when I asked when we would, be ready for this or whatever, so you're thinking November for the draft. December in Story County, there's not a lot of people around, especially since Iowa State University has altered their schedule so that they will be done at Thanksgiving time and will not bring people back. And what that means, yes, there's the students, but there's the faculty and all of the staff that work at Iowa State who live out in the county. Not everybody lives in Ames or whatever. I just want to point out to you from a time standpoint that not only is COVID an opportunity to deal with, okay, but just in my mind, as I'm seeing where you are at this point or whatever, I'm thinking this isn't going to be finished or even ready to have input by community until mid-January if you truly want diverse community input.
Yeah, I mean, and we can adjust as understanding those changing schedules. The draft plan, we can be ready to give presentations earlier in the fall. If we need to adjust, what we'll do is, we wouldn't probably have the final polished document to deliver to people, but we would still be able to kind of give our presentations of our findings just to make sure we catch those people if we need to.
Great, super, thank you.
I would agree with, if you can do that, condensing some of it, moving some things up a little more so you can get that out earlier. Supervisor Olson makes a good point.
Yeah, she does. And I think too, with the survey, I think if we could look at maybe you pin it, repost it,
Yes.
whatever, so it's the top, just double checking that it's on our website so that we are eliciting that as much information as we possibly can.
Yeah, I couldn't quickly find it on the
I pulled
website.
it down for damage assessment stuff.
Well,
Because
see, and that's
our
the
that's why.
problem right now. We've got the COVID stuff on the homepage, we've got the damage assessment stuff.
Right. Yeah, so getting some of that feedback need to be extended a little bit longer because of the storm situation we had last week that just has impacted things,
I
so.
really think the media can help on this, and especially if there were, like I said, the local newspaper, the weeklies, who then the article could say, yeah, you may have to go look for it, it's not right on the front page.
If you could send a link, I could get it out for the jurisdictional,
Yeah.
there's a link, so it's still on the website, it's just not on the homepage.
It's also in your August 6th email, there's the survey
Thank you.
is
Okay.
there.
I apologize for missing that.
I I have everything archived, so I can't.
Yeah, no, I just did a quick look and found it August. I remember seeing it, I couldn't quite remember, but yeah, I found it on August 6th.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah. I'm not reading enough with one eye.
Yeah, and we usually recommend that as well. We get a big jump at the beginning, and we did have that with this, and usually we always recommend a second push, and then we'll see another big jump as well in responses. So this is not uncommon, and that's why we typically don't put a hard close on it. We leave it open for quite a while.
Great.
Charlie, I'm sharing the screen again, if you.
Okay, well, that's pretty, that pretty much wraps it up, kind of where we're headed in the next month or two, or several months, I should say, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you have and continue to work with our steering committee on moving forward.
I just have a question, actually, on your first slide. I think it was the first one. No, it's the one that says analyze market. Let's be slide 6, maybe. Just so that I'm understanding, on the right-hand side, it shows the total number. It has 2012 to 2017, 2018 to 2022, and then you've got the affordable, low, affordable, moderate. And then you have total renter occupied. You have low, less than 450, 450, 450. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
No problem. So we'll be doing our projection through 2030. So it'll be a 10-year kind of model. But really what this does is we do a series of forecasts and projections based on what we see as the owner-occupied and renter-occupied demand in the future. So what that example, that chart in the lower right is showing is the actual number of units that might be projected in those categories, broken out by the price point of either the owner-occupied house in the orange or the monthly rent in the yellow. And those numbers will be kind of adjusted to local conditions based on what different income ranges can afford. So while it does say specific numbers there, 957, 86, whatever. It's more to illustrate kind of the magnitude of each level. So we're not saying that if you don't build 957 owner-occupied units through 2022, you're not meeting the housing unit demand. It's going to ebb and flow. So one year you may have a lot, one year you may have less than that, but on the aggregate, it's kind of showing that split between owner and renter.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Charlie, anything else you want to share with us?
No, I don't have anything else. Like I said, I greatly appreciate the help advertising the survey and getting that out. And especially to different groups of folks, young professionals, seniors as well. We do have a paper version we can provide as well if that's easier for folks.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to the report. Thanks.
Thank you.
So next, going on, we have consideration of a proclamation of September as National Recovery Month, which was submitted by Community and Family Resources. I'm going to ask Supervisor Head, would you read the first 4 whereases, and then Supervisor Olson the next 4, and I'll finish it up?
Okay, sure. Recovery Month proclamation. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness, and whereas prevention of mental health or substance abuse disorders works, treatment is effective, and recovery is vital to the well-being of the individual and the community. And whereas proactively acknowledging and treating mental or substance abuse disorders is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. And whereas we must encourage relatives and friends of people with mental or substance abuse disorders to implement preventative measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And
Whereas, given the serious nature of this public health problem, we must strive to offer all persons the same opportunities for treatment and wellness. And whereas, approximately 100,000 Iowans currently receive treatment for mental illness or substance abuse addiction. And whereas, the COVID-19 epidemic poses new challenges to the citizenry of our great nation, and illicit substance use has shown worrisome gains. And whereas recent changes made in the state of Iowa and our nation make the personal possession of the opioid overdose reversal drug Narcan available and should be responsibly promoted. And
Whereas, to help more people achieve and sustain long-term recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and the Story County Board of Supervisors invite all residents of Story County to participate in National Recovery Month. And by virtue of the authority vested in us by the laws of Story County, we do hereby proclaim the month of September 2020 as National Recovery Month in Story County, and call upon the people of Story County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to support this year's Recovery Month. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand this 18th day of August in the year 2020. Thank you, everybody. September is now National Recovery Month.
I would make that motion.
I will second.
Okay, Olson?
Aye.
Hens?
Aye.
Merkin? Aye. Proclamation is approved. Next, we have consideration of minutes, and it doesn't look like we had any minutes today. So we go on to consideration of personnel actions. I would entertain a motion for approval of personnel actions as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Hens?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Merkin? Aye. Adopted. Approved. Next, consideration of claims. I would entertain a motion to approve claims as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Olson?
Aye.
Hens?
Aye.
Merkin? Aye. Next, consent agenda, and I've had a request that we pull item number one. Is that correct, Supervisor Olson?
Correct.
Okay. So at Supervisor Olson's request, we're pulling item number one. So are there any other requests to pull items for discussion?
No.
If not, I would entertain a motion to approve consent agenda except for item one.
So moved.
Second.
Edens?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Merkin? Aye. Consent agenda items adopted except for one, and Connie Torsville is here from the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office. So Supervisor Olson, your questions?
I don't have questions. I just wanted to point out that this is an amendment to the contract, not a new contract, and that large portions of the contract are it can't be released without Department of Justice approval, so that's why it's not attached. Correct, Connie?
That is correct.
So I was just wondering if you could, certainly I think what most people are interested in is what is the dollar amount, the number of people we may serve. So did you want to do that, or did you want me to say something?
No, I can go ahead and do that.
Okay, super.
Every year at this time, this is a federal contract, as we know, and every year at this time, they're going through their new fiscal year and they're reappropriating or reallocating funds to cover the cost to detain inmates at our facility. I'm assuming due to COVID is why there is a big jump. At the starting of last fiscal year, they had budgeted $48,760, and in this contract, they are cutting a total of $23,730 for the actual care and keep, and then they're covering $3,261.71 for if we have to transport the inmates or guard them in a transport situation, for an ending balance of $21,768.29 that they are allocating to our department to house their inmates. And
So
that's all
that's
it's doing.
Great, and that's more than a 50% reduction.
Yes, but
Yes.
due to COVID, we're not housing as many, and I'm thinking that that is going to probably be for a while. So Sheriff Fitzgerald has been doing a wonderful job with slowly bringing people back into the jail, and we have not had a COVID case in the jail as of yet, knock on wood. So he's doing a wonderful job with that.
Congratulations. And thank you. And that's just why I pulled it, so we got the numbers on the record, because that's what most people are interested in.
And what was that final number again?
$21,768.29.
And that equates to a certain amount per day per detainee. as well.
Exactly.
So it's quite a reduction.
It
Did they
is.
give you an itemization on that, or just
For,
in terms of the numbers?
yes, they lowered for the care and keep portion from 43,960 to actually 20,230. And then if we have to transport them and then guard them, they lowered that from actually 4,800 down to $1,538.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask my question very well.
I'm sorry.
It was in terms of the number of anticipated.
Oh, they don't put that
They
in there,
don't
no.
do
Yeah,
that.
that was calculated. I
The number
thought-
of people?
Yeah, number of people, I think is what she's asking.
Yeah.
So it was reduced by 339 days, is not number of people.
It's not number of people, it's days.
It's the number of days that they might be taking.
Yeah.
So how many days was it originally based on?
628.
628
From
down
last
to 300 and what did you say?
No, down to 289.
289.
Yeah, it reduced it by 330.
Okay. That was what I was
Yeah,
just trying to find,
Okay.
if there were numbers associated with that, or they just did something arbitrary. Okay,
but it's weird when it's counted as days.
Right,
instead
and
of
not people.
well, it's person days.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
thanks.
Any more
Any other
Thank you.
questions for the sheriff?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then I would entertain a motion for approval of the amendment modifying the contract between ICE and Story County.
I would so move. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Olson.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Merkin, aye. Approved. Thank you very much, Connie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next is public hearing items, of which there are none. So next on 17 additional items, we have an update on FEMA and CARES Act funding and consideration of resolution for reimbursement. And we have Sandra King, Darren Moon, and Leanne Harder listed. Sandra, you want to start us off?
Yes, good morning, board.
Good
Good morning.
I'd like to start by requesting that the resolution be pulled. We are still waiting on some additional information on the CARES Act, and I'm in the process of getting that information from ISAC. There's also going to be a webinar scheduled. I believe that's going to be this week or early next week. I think it's going to be on Wednesday, actually, but that information was supposed to come out yesterday, and I'm not sure I've seen it, so I just want to make sure that I have everything in a row before we get that resolution back out there. My plans right now will be to bring that back next week, and hopefully I would have an exact dollar amount by then, or be able to put an up to dollar amount on there, but I'll just feel more confident about that at that time after getting more information from my side.
Any problem with that board pulling the resolution?
No, I don't have any problem. I have a question related to, since reimbursement goes through December 2020, might this be the first of actually a couple of resolutions?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, there's going to be the first resolution will go through July 31st, I believe. And then it's my understanding that we would have to do subsequent resolutions after that.
And you may want to check with somebody who writes resolutions on a regular basis, okay? Because sometimes when we have resolutions that have, are addressing the same issue more
We
than one
actually had a
time.
model. They provided a
Well, or
model.
there's some language, I think.
Yeah.
So Shelley might be a good place to start. You don't know what I'm talking about? Where it says, whereas we on such a date. I think Lisa Markley uses it related, or would you, Leanne, be aware of? I think we want to, it references in subsequent resolutions back to the previous resolution, just mentioning that it exists and what it did.
The next resolution.
Right. not
You're
this
talking
one.
about, yeah, not this one,
No,
but
but
next
the next
one.
one.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And if maybe in this resolution, when you bring it back to us, you mentioned this is anticipated to be the first of more than one. Because otherwise it doesn't match up when we're asking for reimbursement, but clearly the period hasn't expired yet. So that helps people track it.
Okay, so we can talk about that.
Sure.
We actually used the model that was provided by ISAC.
Yeah.
And a number of counties, I don't know if any of you are on Basecamp, the message opportunity that we have to do online messaging between counties. And with ISAC, there were a number of different questions about this resolution and about the whole process. So,
Great.
yeah, so we're just trying to kind of stay in line with, be consistent with what's being done.
I got it.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
as I said, you know.
You make some
to
good points.
reference.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. And then continuing on with the FEMA update, Leanne, Darren, and I have been in contact, and Leanne and Darren are taking the lead. Sounds like that we're going to have 2 applications. One will be on the derecho, and then the other will be on COVID. Darren is taking the lead on the weather event, and then Leanne on COVID. So I'll turn it over to them to talk about what they're doing with that.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Darren, do you want me to just go first?
Sure, go ahead.
I'll speak specific to COVID, as Sandra just mentioned. Did get the Homeland Security account set up last week, and now I'm starting to file the FEMA application. I have all the personnel costs up through, I think it was July 21st, was the last request. I may have that date wrong. But we'll be getting another one submitted for personnel costs through the CCMT here in the next, I'll wait till the next pay period round. So the application that gets filed will include the personnel costs up to the last reporting period. As Sandra noted, though, this is ongoing.
Yeah.
And they are clear, they've simplified the application process for COVID. It still is very cumbersome, extremely cumbersome in fact, but that is the necessary evil. We are required to apply for FEMA public assistance first prior to receiving CARES Act reimbursement. However, the benefit of CARES Act reimbursement, we can use that towards our 25% match, specific for COVID.
Are there things that the CARES Act reimbursement would do that FEMA would not?
That is the next step that we need to look at.
You think so?
And I sent an email out yesterday afternoon to department heads and elected officials and CCMT members to get non-personnel related costs related to COVID. The comparisons we need to do include looking at the CARES Act funding and the FEMA reimbursement, but we also need to go back to the Department of Justice. I don't know the name of that grant.
Just DOJ grant.
That we received already, and make sure we're removing what has already been reimbursed.
Sure, because we got
So we don't double dip.
58,000 already out of that.
So that's gonna be an exercise that once I receive all the non-personnel costs, we'll have comparisons set up. That will not delay me from getting into the FEMA application process, but I won't be able to finalize it and bring it back to the board for any action that's necessary. But we have a September 15th date in mind. We'll definitely meet that requirement. And that is specific to COVID. And that is all I will be dealing with the FEMA public assistance end is the COVID.
Okay. So the deadline is September 15th.
That's when, yeah, that's when we need everything filed.
A question, and this is something that Sandra, you may pick up in that webinar tomorrow, so I don't expect you to answer it today, but to look for this for next week. To do with how, if CARES Act, if we have to apply to FEMA first and use PA money before we can use CARES Act. But then CARES Act, we can use that for the 25%. That's what I heard. Mm-hmm. So my question regarding application is the governor allocated $125 million to counties and cities for this. if you could listen for tomorrow or on that webinar or whatever, if we could determine, is it first come, first served when it comes to an application?
No,
we
there's a
have
certain
1.2
allocation.
million.
We already have gotten one.
We have, that's our
We
Story
are
County
eligible
share is
for that.
1.2 million, but
Right.
that's reimbursable and it has to be COVID related. It's not like they just send us a check.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that, never mind, then my question no longer is germane. Okay, now that we know there's a dollar.
The Public Assistance Program is not a competitive grant program. That is a reimbursement basis as well too.
No, I was thinking more about the CARES, but if we're gonna use that money from the CARES Act for our match for 25%. So I was trying to fit it all in process-wise about applying for how much do we have a September 15th deadline on FEMA. Would that limit us about whatever we can estimate as a bat to what we could then apply for via the state money?
Is CARES 25% or is it 15%?
I think it's 25%.
It is, so
That was
so
the entire
the two will be
FEMA match.
100. It's not the 75, 15, 10 anymore.
For the FEMA match is 25%.
Yeah, for
And this
everything
is-
I've seen, it's-
This is not uncomplicated. There's also a FEMA webinar. So,
Okay.
yeah, so there's more information coming out
Super,
and
thank
people
you.
are having some of the same questions.
Great.
Yeah, and I've also been trying to keep an eye out on what other county associations are doing, other states are doing
Uh-huh.
with their counties to provide more information and so
Great.
forth, and maybe trying to look at some of that and see what might be helpful to do something similar. For example, one county association had a decision tree that's helpful for people to know what they can use those CARES Act dollars for, because it's pretty strict.
So does it look like to you the CARES Act of the 1.2 that's allocated to Story County? That's what I'm hearing now out of the CARES money, but that's for county and our city's jurisdictions. Therefore, would that be competitive? Do we know?
Now, it's my understanding that money is set aside for the county, but it's not like you would just get that money. It's
No, I
it's
understand.
reimbursable, you know, of
Right.
course, the expenses have to be eligible and so forth. And there's a possibility, and this is something that I have some questions into ISAC. There's a possibility that some of that could be reallocated to cities from the county, but that's not a requirement. Just like the
Got it.
state shared their dollars with the county,
Uh-huh.
but wasn't a requirement. It's not a requirement for the county to do it.
Thank
And the
you.
cities all got CARES Act money. It's in
Thank
that same ISAC email that we picked up our 1.2 million from. It came a week ago, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we have
And
our
all
amounts in
this,
the
all the
cities happening.
cities, I think Ames got 1.5 or something like that.
Okay,
And then all the cities have it, and it's just per capita.
thank you. I apparently have missed.
Well, there's a lot of stuff coming through in emails and I missed some. too,
Thank
but
you.
yeah, no, that's all.
I apologize.
So,
I do have one other thing. I did email Ethan, and I'm trying to wrestle with how part of the FEMA public assistance and the CARES Act is the public health response to COVID. We contract with Homeward and Mary Greeley for public health in Story County. I asked Ethan if he could shoot me in some direction on how that gets billed in, if it does. Does that come through Ames, through their CARES Act reimbursement and FEMA PA, since Mary Greeley is affiliated with the City of Ames? Is it Story County through a contractual relationship with Homeward for public health? Or is it just not even in the mix? That could be, and that's a large chunk of.
And is that something that you'd also, whatever you find out from Ethan or whomever, you'd have a conversation with the city, just so to make sure that you're both on the same page with that?
but that's already a budgeted item.
It is, but I don't know what in addition. it may have said.
And the general kind of guidance I saw in there was it's got to be something that was not already in a budget, it's not already budgeted. Maybe
Right, and some of the COVID stuff probably would meet that it wasn't already budgeted for, because when we
Yeah.
get the budget, we didn't really know about that.
No.
So that's one of my questions about the CARES Act too, through ISAC, about public health. So, yeah, again, not uncomplicated. It's kind of a tangled web.
And we are really unique with our public health relationship we have with Mary Bailey and we're in store right now. So it is a tangled web.
Thank you. Thank you for sorting it out for us. Good luck. Okay. So,
Any other questions for Leanne? If not, we'll go on to Darren. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning. I guess the only other thing I wanted to point out was Sandra mentioned we submitted the FEMA application for the storm damage, and that will be just for secondary roads. As with any storm event, each department has to do their own applications. I'm sure Mike will be doing one for conservation. So that's not a county-wide application. We tried to submit the county-wide application for FEMA for the COVID application, but we could only do it under our secondary roads account. So we got Leanne set up to do the county-wide COVID FEMA application under that. So that is county-wide, but the storm event is just for secondary roads at this point.
What kind of reimbursable costs do you see there in what you've done so far?
For the storm event?
Yes.
So far, estimates about 70,000, and that's a lot of our overtime and emergency when we're out setting up road closures and pushing trees off. There'll be additional on top of that, hopefully, for the debris hauling and burning, but we'll find more about that at the webinar, hopefully.
Okay, and that's above what you had budgeted. That will be above what you had budgeted, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions for Darren? Or anything else you'd like to point out to us?
That's all I have.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I know that I have heard, I don't know from personal experience, but I've heard that FEMA is difficult to deal with at best, and it's going to be a whole lot of, getting information, and we'll probably ask questions, and you'll say, I told you that 5 times. Be patient.
Well, some jurisdictions use consultants. That's something that we probably should, kind of weigh the pros and cons of. Maybe do a cost-benefit analysis on it and see if it makes sense. But some jurisdictions
I've seen a couple emails
do
come
that.
through, and you said you've gotten a couple.
do those tend to be smaller counties where they don't have like a special projects manager or a
I don't know. I think the
director of
bigger ones
external?
use it. I think the bigger ones use them too. But yeah, it's kind of a technical.
I always wonder, and I don't know, and that's something to think about is if you hire a consultant to do it, they get a certain amount of the money, but do we end up collecting all the information anyway
Yeah.
for them? And maybe that's the thing, is just see what.
Well, we
actually-
used a consultant for the DOJ grant.
Well, I know we did. Yeah, and I don't know, but I know that's because the sheriff already had that set up, and that's how they did it, and we had to do it quickly, and it was going to be mostly out of sheriff's office. I just don't know.
Right, and this seems more technical than that even. So, but like you're right, the sheriff's office already had a relationship, and it just kind of flowed naturally to do that. But yeah, just something to think about, I think.
We would need it and take a look at the history about why some positions exist here in the county and what the expectations are for those positions to do
Sure,
in savings versus hiring outside.
I think that's something you look at, things that are out of the ordinary situations that occur. Don't disagree with you on that, but it doesn't hurt to look and gather the information and find out. I do know that FEMA can be quite technical, and sometimes you need to have specific verbiage that we might not be aware of, that somebody who does this more often who may be aware of.
Maybe we could split a consultant fee too. you know, with counties. Yeah,
Possibility.
okay, yeah, for that, okay.
Well, if you, looking into that, if you see something that you think would be worth doing, bring it back. Let us know. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work. I know you've been at it really, particularly this last week with the second disaster coming along. I know you've been working some long, hard hours on trying to sort this through out. I appreciate it.
Interesting.
Thanks.
Next, we have discussion and consideration of wording for a plaque acknowledging Story County's financial report for the Story City Carousel Pavilion renovation project. Leanne Harder and Karen Hermanson. Is Karen? There she is. Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, Karen.
Karen is, hopefully she's having
I
some,
will defer to Leanne if my connection is poor.
she's having some stability issues.
Yes.
Karen, do you want me to just start?
Yes,
Okay. As the
yes,
board,
please go ahead.
okay. As the board knows, last year, Story City Carousel, City of Story City received funding for the pavilion renovation project. They're now at the phase where work has been completed and reimbursed through our process, but they are looking at the signage and the recognition for the funders for the project. Karen did email me a couple weeks ago to find out how Story County should be recognized, the verbiage. And so in the past, we looked at, you've had some discussions at the board table regarding Miracle League. And I don't remember if you did for the community building here in Nevada. Funding was given towards that as well. But in that case, I was just in there recently, and the plaque within the community building says funding available or funding support from Story County Board of Supervisors. Karen did ask, City of Story City and Story County are the two primary funders. So in the appearance on the plaque, the text will be larger font size, but she was not sure if it should just be Story County, County of Story County. It's going to be City of Story City, I believe,
Yes.
or Story County Board of Supervisors. So we wanted to bring it here for your guidance and direction, so that they could go forward and order the plaque and get that installed. Karen, do you have anything you want to add?
I would just say the three obvious choices are Story County or Story County Board of Supervisors. Just want to clarify and thank the board for their support.
Sure. Thank you. I feel that we should eliminate Story County Board of Supervisors because it's not our money. It's the taxpayers' money, okay? It's the county's money. We just get to vote, okay? And make decisions. So my thought is since the City of Story City is going with City of Story City, and then I think we should mirror them. I'm all about mirroring and, and so we should say County of Story County, Iowa. Is that what they're saying? City of Story City?
Yes, that is correct.
So then we would say, I would think County of Story County. And that makes it clear that it's,
Our legal name is County of Story, Iowa.
okay,
That's our legal name.
Alyssa just pointed out, yes, our legal name is actually County of Story, Iowa.
Oh.
Yeah. And that would mirror because their legal name is Story City, City of Story City.
So County
County of Story, Iowa.
Iowa. That's our legal name.
Huh. I guess I didn't know that.
So would you say County of Story, County Iowa, or would you just say County of Story?
Iowa. Thank you for reminding me about the Iowa.
Does that work for you, Kathy?
That works beautifully. I just wanted to be precise and allow you to clarify.
Great, Karen, thank you so much. And pardon me, I don't know what Kathy I was thinking of when I called you Kathy just now. Okay, so do we need a motion?
That's how it was.
Yes. Says consideration. Would somebody be willing to make a motion?
So I'll make the motion that reflect the county of Story County, comma, Iowa. Nope,
County of Story.
No.
comma, Iowa.
Iowa.
County of Story, comma, Iowa.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? If not, Hens.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Merkin. Aye. Thank you for bringing this to us.
And I'm looking forward to a ride in the future.
Well, thank you. It's been a challenging year because of COVID for everyone, including the carousel, but people are appreciative. And thank you for your support.
Great.
Thank you.
For everything you've done. We appreciate it. We'll head on then to discussion and consideration of Story County opening a vegetative debris management site for debris from the August 10, 2020 storm. Jerry Moore and Amelia Schoeneman. Jerry, I see you're on.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I want to thank Amelia Schoeneman for assisting with her contribution to this document that we're sharing with the board this morning. She contributed greatly to the process, did a lot of research, made a lot of phone calls, and really provided a lot of assistance. I'd also like to reach out and give a thanks to Darren Moon, our county engineer, Mike Cox, the conservation director, Keith Morgan, our emergency management coordinator, and for their input and contribution to provide assistance to help us put together this document. We also reached out to tree service companies last week to get some information. We were hoping to get quotes. We did talk to a few of the larger companies that provide services in the Story County area. And there is some interest in assisting Story County with this process. So just a little bit of background. Our department had the task of trying to locate a couple of sites in the county to process debris of all sorts of material, whether it be vegetative matter, construction, demolition material. We got to the point where we had verbal comments with two communities. The city of Maxwell verbally agreed to allow the county to use a site on the west part of their community for processing vegetative material. And the city of Nevada, the previous city administrator, agreed to allow the county to use a site on the west side of their community for processing all sorts of debris. But after last Monday's event, we did reach out to Maxwell, and on the 13th, we learned that the site in Maxwell was full, and the city staff thought that they'd only process like 20% of the material that they need to collect. I did have a conversation with Jordan Cook, the new city administrator, who was very cordial. He indicated that the site that we planned on using for debris processing was currently not available. It's currently under ownership of the Nevada Economic Development Commission. But he said they're using a site at the wastewater treatment plant, which is on the south side of town, and that we could use that site if we were interested in doing so, but we would need to have locations outside the city to stage the material. So in going through this process, it's important to know that there's DNR requirements, there's FEMA requirements, especially if there's interest in getting reimbursed from some of the costs that are associated with this cleanup activity. DNR has a pre-site approval review process, and the 3 sites that we identify in this report that Amelia will go through have all been approved by the DNR staff. So if the board takes action to approve one or all, we have approval from the DNR for those locations. And it's critical because for burning, there's a 1/4 mile separation requirement from dwellings. And so the site to the north in Milford Township, which again, Amelia will talk about, can be used for burning. Also public assistance through FEMA. It takes presidential proclamation. I know the governor passed a proclamation. I'm told that the president also responded to the governor's appeal for assistance. I think she put together a request for approximately $4 billion in aid. And this particular storm event caused significant impact throughout the state, impacting 27 counties. So I guess in short, and we're going to get into the details, based on the information that we've collected over this short time period, we think probably the most efficient system and a system that would be less costly to the county would be if we have a location where people, property owners could bring their material on their own using their own equipment and drop it off. But it's going to require us to have on-site managers, preferably like a tree service, to actually process. And then again, the site that we're recommending can be used for burning. So that would be the goal. And Amelia is going to talk about what our goal or what our charge was and some of these information about some of these sites.
Thank you, Jerry. Good morning, board. As Jerry said, we have 4 potential sites, one of which would be the City of Nevada's site. With the City of Nevada's site, as Jerry stated, we would be required to have alternative staging locations where debris could be taken by the public prior to being brought to the City of Nevada. Staff reached out to the Cornerstone Church and the Christ Community Church, which is also known as the Plex, to see if those would be good staging sites or they would be willing to work with us. They were both interested in working with us if we pursued the Nevada site for burning and processing, and we could potentially do chipping at the church sites as well. The church sites are smaller, and again, they would be places for the public to bring the debris to before we hauled it to its final processing site. On the highway, the Cornerstone Church site, it is located off of Highway 30. So there was a concern there with, the public bringing debris and it potentially getting, falling off of trucks onto Highway 30 or, traffic backing up from that site. So the Christ Community Church site, the Plex, might be more appropriate for a public drop-off site if we want that route. And it's also located on George Washington Carver, which is right across from the Irons and kind of near a lot of the subdivisions that are north of Ames. The Cornerstone Church site, though, is pretty proximate to the City of Nevada's site because it is right on Highway 30, just west of the City of Nevada's site. Another alternative would be to have a county-operated site where we could, do the burning of the debris. We previously, when we were looking at a construction and demolition landfill location, reached out to Stover site owners. There wasn't a lot of interest at that time because construction and demolition debris is, a much different type of debris. But for vegetative debris, we did have one interested property owner that has a former Stover site. Brian Sampson is the farmer and the property owner is the Strom family. It's a 57-acre parcel. It's on 600th Avenue, which is paved, and 160th Street. And 10 acres of the northwest corner of the site would be available for the county to process and burn vegetative material. In this area, it would meet the DNR separation requirement from dwellings. Again, as Jerry stated, the DNR has reviewed and approved the church sites and the 160th and 600th site, and would allow burning at the 160th and 600th site. And another alternative is that if the board wanted to move forward with the county-operated site, 160th and 600th, and that site became overwhelmed, or you wanted a different public drop-off site, you know, you could use the church sites as a staging location for the public to bring their debris prior to it being hauled to the 600th and 160th site. So those are the site options. And I'll turn it back over to Jerry to talk a little bit more about management of those sites.
Yeah, again, I think what we're proposing would be to use the Milford Township property site because the west 10 acres can be used for burning, and it's ultimately it's less costly and less time consuming, and it's a system that relies on the property owners bringing their material to the site. But we know through reimbursement that we need to be able to keep track of loads. The conversations that I had last week with the tree service companies, they have, you know, they communicated to me that they had a lot of experience, not only in the Midwest, but in other parts of the country, helping communities and counties with their debris issues with storm events and hurricanes. And so, you know, it's important that we work with somebody that has that experience. So we know we have to monitor all the load volume information, each vehicle, each car that comes in. Part of our review of this involved discussions with Darren, with Mike. They are extremely busy right now managing the road right-of-ways and the debris from them, including the parks. They both communicated to us, though, that they're very interested in using the Milford Township site for the materials that they would be collecting from the right-of-ways from the county parks. Again, we were hoping to get some quote information. Did not get it. We received an email from one of the individuals that I talked to last week who seems to be very interested. They are working with the city of Huxley right now, and they have a site in the community that they're using as a burn site. And their service that they're providing is curbside. So the property owners are bringing the debris to the road right away. And this company is picking it up with their equipment and bringing it back to the site. And they're going through a burn process. And according to the company representative, the process is going very well.
Jerry, can I just interrupt with a question?
Sure.
Linda, I have a concern about us doing anything picking up out in the unincorporated areas, because I think it's going to be a safety issue if we have people stacking stuff out on the shoulders. You know, where it's not like a city where we've got, you know, between the curb and your sidewalk, you know, you've got that, you know, that area. And we've still got, I mean, I think we've got most of the power issues taken care of, but I'm just concerned about getting into picking up, even, you know, even with having a tree service do it. Us saying, yeah, put your brush on the shoulder, that's going to be a hazard for motorists.
Right. And I think planning staff agrees with you, Linda. We are proposing a system where the property owners would be required, if they want assistance, they would be required to bring it to the site or one of the three sites for the county to process. And so in part of our communication that we had with Darren, you know, he's very concerned about landowners bringing debris of various sizes to the public right of way, concerned about obstructing visibility, concerns about having a lot of that stuff end up in the road right of way ditches and how it might impact our drainage systems. So I think we certainly understand and we agree that a pickup system probably won't be that efficient for the county. It seems to work well for a community to do that, but the county has 500 and some square miles that we would be having to pick up material for, and it could be pretty cumbersome process to try to manage that.
This is Loris. I also just, the safety is the big thing, but also when you're talking about us picking up in the unincorporated areas, you're talking about large segments of land that people may be trying to clear. And that that takes them longer as a property owner to get all of their to get their land cleared and get it to a central place, like the center of the road. Whereas in the communities, I think most people have had their cleanup to the extent they can do right now until they literally have a tree service coming out to handle that split tree or whatever. I mean, so the city's only going to have to make 1 or 2 passes. We could be making passes to pick up debris for a month or so. So I think that makes it logistically untenable in addition to the main issue of safety.
Jerry, it sounds like we've got a lot of questions. I know I have several. Do you want to, should we stop and let you continue your presentation, or are you pretty much done?
There's just a few more things. We're just going to get into some cost information, because when you get into the comments that you raised are very valid. Through our review of this, we've reached out to a company in the Des Moines area just to get an idea as to, what does it cost to haul material from point A to point B. And we tried to provide some of that information for the board. It's 2016 cost, so you need to add, what, 2-3% to that probably. It was broken down by the piece of equipment, and it also included like labor costs. So when you start looking at those numbers, it becomes very, very, very real. So I'll just pop into like advantages. If we look at the 3 sites, a lot of the population is within proximity or close proximity to these three locations. The Milford Township site is on a paved road, 600th Avenue. And again, burning is attractive for that site. The other 2 church sites would have to be chipping only, which you have to have the equipment to do it, and it's very time consuming. The sites would be controlled by the county. You have interest from Darren and Mike to use the Milford Township sites to bring their debris to process. We can set the hours of operations, whether it's Monday through Friday or through the weekend, half a day, full day. And we've heard from the tenant farmer at the Milford Township site and the property owner that they're interested in having discussions with the county also about using their property for future disaster situations, which is attractive. Disadvantages, again, it's using churches. You get into the haul cost, hauling from the church to the Milford Township property. As Amelia pointed out, using the Cornerstone Church, Darren communicated to us concerns about having debris potentially fall off loads, which is very possible. And then, these churches are still functioning. They're still providing services. There is housing close by, so it's going to be a messy thing to look at. It can be noisy to look at. So that is something to consider as well. So again, our recommendation is to have the board seriously consider using the Milford Township site because of its attractiveness in allowing the county to burn vegetated matter that's generated from private property, from right-of-way, from the parks. But we are also asking the board to take action on supporting these next steps, which the first thing is, we obtained approval from the DNR, which is a great thing. Work with the county attorney's office on preparing a document which will take care of liability for the county and look out for the property owner's interest and make sure that we're on the same page. We are recommending that we do some type of procurement, that we do an RFP, request for proposal or request for services, and potentially do that on a shortened time schedule to reach out to tree service providers or other companies that may be interested in assisting the county. We know that we need to put together some draft site plans so that we are clear and the third party that we work with and the property owners are clear on how these properties are going to be used. Signage will be important as well. So we have to decide if we reach out to a sign company or if we can get materials from a lumber company and put something together. There's also the issue of, since planning deals with uses, we don't specifically have language in the land development regulations that address a situation like this. So it could potentially require a conditional use permit. So we may have to have a special meeting to address that. And then lastly, get working on the communication on whatever plan the board adopts and getting the information out on the website, social media, radio, whatever it takes. A lot of these people are, they've dug in and, it's Iowa. And so we help each other out and we don't sit back and wait for somebody else to help us out usually. And so a lot of this, some of this work is probably taking place. So this is a time sensitive issue. Are there any other questions?
I got a question right now. You said an RFP for a tree service. I only see that under your next steps if we're not using the Milford Township site. So why would we be contracting with a tree service if we're using the Milford Township site and it's a drop off only and we're burning?
Because somebody has to manage it. Somebody has to move the material around and they have to be in charge of the burn. Our department is, we're very willing, interested to help with this, but to be honest with you, we're actually short-staffed, and we don't have experience in burning large piles of material. We've been told that the Public Works, Secondary Roads, Conservation departments will not be assisting with the actual management of the site. So we think we need to hire somebody that has the experience in doing that. And we are willing to monitor it because, like I said, we are likely going to be requesting FEMA reimbursement. And so our staff would participate in the monitoring of the third party, of the use of the property, keeping track of the load information, but we wouldn't actually be doing the moving of the material and the actual burn.
Here's my concern, and let me go a little further on this, Jerry. I'm not sure that we can, the question is out there of can we claim FEMA reimbursement if this is just a drop-off site? And I know there's some issues there. And you kind of hinted to that in your report and said we need to maybe not think that we're going to get FEMA we need to be able to bear the costs. And I did reach out to Mike Cox because I'm on the conservation board. I reached out last night to Mike Cox and he got back to me this morning. And he's got some staff, himself included, who would be willing to take some time and to staff this site, which we would need. Is, to make sure somebody's there, to make sure that garbage isn't being dropped off, shingles aren't dropped off, whatever. And that's maybe news to you. But he said they would be willing to.
That'd be great. That's new information. We didn't think that they would be,
Email,
we
but I
knew that they
didn't.
were interested in using the site, but only for the benefit of, for the material that they would be bringing. So we thought we needed to hire somebody, but if they're willing to participate in the actual management of the site, that's great.
I think it's actually monitoring the site, having somebody there to take, make sure that somebody's from the unincorporated area to get their information, and to help do that. I don't think they're gonna be, there's other things like moving the brush around, because before you're gonna burn it, obviously it's gotta be compacted more, because it can be a real mess otherwise. But I'm wondering if you've reached out to, or could reach out to the local fire agency to see if they would be willing to assist in any way to burn it. It's Roland, I believe Milford Township, or at least that area. It looked to me from the map like it would be the Roland Fire Department. At least let them know what we're doing and see. I'm just concerned that if we don't think we're gonna get FEMA reimbursement, or we might not get FEMA reimbursement, let's see what we can do with current county resources first before hiring, because we might get stuck with an awfully large bill.
Right, well, I think the difference on what you're saying though, Linda, is if conservation is looking at just kind of assisting monitoring, but not actually doing the work, you're gonna have someone regardless doing the work, of contacting and moving it around. So that is gonna incur.
It's gonna cost. It could. We've got some equipment in secondary roads that could be used, but we would have to find other county funds to reimburse.
So, right, but I'm just trying to find out then
Yeah.
who's the personnel?
Okay,
That
so
would be my other question.
I have a question before we get to who's the personnel, okay? And that is coming back to the costs here. So the third party DeCarlo costs of that and we know it's low, but $196,000, that includes labor with hand tools, correct?
Right. And it's important for the board to know that we collected this information several years ago.
And I just want to, I want to try and differentiate, Jerry, between what this third party does and the tree service company does. Because when I see laborers with hand tools, I'm thinking, well, aren't those the people who'd be burning it? I just want to make sure that what everybody's doing, who is doing what at what stage. So now we've clarified what monitoring is. I think we have a better handle even from what conservation is saying they monitor, all right? But then we've got to have people who are doing the work, like we're doing out, right? Okay. Is that the third party or the tree service? Is it one or the other, or do we still have both?
Yeah, when we talked to DeCarlo in 2016, they were interested in working with the county on managing all kinds of debris, including construction and demolition materials. So they provided information about, if they were to come up here, they provide details about the equipment that they have and, their labor cost. And so we used it in this example just to give you an idea. If we use like the church sites, we can't burn there because of the proximity to housing. But we could potentially use the sites and mulch up or chip up the material, but it can't stay there. It's got to go somewhere. So we were thinking it could be hauled from the church sites to the Milford Township site. But you can see that it does add quite a bit to the cost when you look at the hauling. Our vision of working with a third-party tree company would be they would be at that site and there would be no hauling involved, but they would have the equipment to move the material around as they need to, with hand tools, with large equipment, motorized equipment that they drive. And plus they would have the knowledge and expertise of burning this material.
And I like the fewer steps involved to get the material from the property, the private property owners or us, to a location to be burned. I like fewer steps. So I really like the Milford Township one. And I know that you guys tried really hard. It's unfortunate Maxwell was filled because what we're talking about is it would be nice to have somebody that was more reachable for people in the south and east part. But Milford also, I think, offers the best transportation logistics for the citizens, okay? So if we looked at Milford, maybe we could adjust some of these costs then, you know, about figuring it out. That's just where I am, is I think we may have to do some further split out of costs. Yes, I know that DeCarlo's bid is low, and given this time or whatever, it could be, or this amount could be, like say, 20–30% low, right? On that, but that's where I was kind of stuck. So thank you on that. So I like the suggestion on Milford.
Is that, I assume that 900 an acre is an annual cash rent?
I think that's, Amelia can jump in here, but I think it's for this project, it'd be $900 for each acre that we anticipate using. And we were thinking a 10-acre site would give us enough space to use. Amelia put together an estimate on how much material we would be receiving, which that's no easy task to do, but FEMA has a formula and she used it and calculated approximately 18 acres of material could be potentially generated from this storm event. We don't know how much of that, what percent of that would actually end up at this site. But 10 acres would give us adequate space for at least a while, you know, to allow people to bring it there. And then, like Randy with Cornerstone Church, you know, reached out through Amelia and indicated that that site could be used. So, you know, potentially if we needed storage, we could use the church site, but then again, you get into transporting costs, which can be pricey.
I think, I don't know that you understood Linda's question. I think the question is with that $900 an acre for those 10 acres, so that $9,000, is that for a month? Is that for a year? What is that for?
That was the
Project.
Yeah, that was the cost that DuPont paid, I believe, for the year.
Okay, and that would make sense.
That,
Cash rent's usually between $200 and $250 an acre a year. So considering it was Stover and it was private, you know, I can see where that would make sense. But that's what I was trying to figure out, is how long are we talking about with them? And if we're only talking 3 months and we plan to have it all burned, you know, by about the time snow flew, you know, could we just do a 3-month lease at a third or quarter of that cost rather than do an annual lease?
I'm not a farmer here, but I would think that, so somebody who knows more about tillable ground, jump on in. But I think $900 is fair per acre, is fair considering what we're gonna leave on that land. I mean, let's say that we only use
an advantage to spread the ash on farmland.
Well, okay, but then the other disadvantage, I would think, are all those wood chips that are in the soil, left in the soil, et cetera. I don't know, that's why I'm saying, somebody who understands more about tillable and land and, you know, growing crops, and given the situation we're in, I mean, I'm not having a problem at 900 per acre. I know you say it's more than people pay for cropland.
Yes, it is.
Well, I think part of
I believe the cash rent on the property is $250 an acre.
Okay.
Just for comparison.
200 to 250 is a range I've been told, and you Google and it's about, across Iowa, it's $222 an acre. So I'm just saying, and I don't think we're talking about chips.
Okay, I just, you
We're
know.
just talking about burning.
I know. And then we are in kind of an a time-sensitive situation here, okay? Well, I've shared my opinion about where I think that given all the factors involved, affordability is.
Well, I'm just saying we should allow staff to negotiate and you have to decide how long you're gonna rent it for. And I know Jerry's saying maybe this is a site we could use in the future for debris management, but are we making that choice now? Are we making that decision, or are we saying, I mean, that's another issue, I think.
Jerry, how many years has it been that your department has been charged with trying to find a site?
Since I arrived in 2015, I was
right.
on the work program. It's
Yep.
especially, it's not an easy task when you talk about trying to find people that are willing to accept all kinds of debris, construction, demolition, nails, glass, all this stuff. And so we were thrilled when the city of Maxwell and the city of Nevada were interested in working with us. It's just unfortunate. I mean, the scope of this storm, has provided this limitation, and then plus the development corporation owns that land, but the city administrator with Nevada was awesome, very cordial, as I said, and he's willing to work with us, but Nevada got hit very hard. And we're not even sure if they've got capacity.
Well, this is the other question I have, Jerry, is if some of the smaller of the towns run out of capacity and I think 10 acres is a pretty good sized piece of land. Could we say to them, and then how does that get involved with FEMA? So that's one thing we have to think about with FEMA. Could we offer, say, to Roland, which is very close, and is just really hit hard, if they run out of space, could we let them bring some of their brush to the site?
So who are we asking? FEMA, or are we asking the
Jerry?
landlord?
I'm asking, well, I don't think the landlord has a problem with it. I'm asking Jerry and Sandra as you get more information about FEMA. See if you think that would be it, because I'm still not even sure that if it's just a drop-off site. I mean, we can do some things, and I saw in your report, which I was glad to see, that we could have people show identification. We can do a good faith effort to make sure they're in the unincorporated area. I assume we would not be able to allow tree services to utilize the space because this is really public. So we'd have to make sure that tree services were not trying to come in and dump their stuff there.
As in commercial
tree services that are out getting trees, I don't think, at least I'm assuming that FEMA would have a problem with that, but we'll need to see. But I think we just need to make sure that we kind of make sure that we can get all those questions pretty much resolved before we get into huge amounts of money.
Well, when you talk about other communities, Linda, we could reach out to Keith to find out, if there's capacity issues or the cities are looking for other sites. I mean, he and Melissa are awesome resources for that kind of thing. And I like the comment that was raised too about reaching out to the fire departments. We have not done that. Perhaps maybe, they'll be able to provide some assistance to some level, to some degree, which might, reduce costs too. So we can reach out to them as well.
And another thought I had is maybe reach out to some of the city managers where they have some experience in this and see what regulations they have, because we're going to have to put together some regulations for this. Maybe reach out to Story City and Huxley and Nevada and just see what they've got for regulations, so we're not starting from scratch.
And so where are we going to balance this about time sensitive? I like the regulations. We certainly don't want to be breaking any DNR regulations or whatever, but where are we balancing this time sensitivity, versus availability and the reach outs, et cetera. So Jerry, just based upon the feedback you've gotten here about the steps and then your steps, when do you think we might actually, let's assume, we go with Milford and the townships all have, the fire departments can say, yes, we've got plenty of time. Our people are not cleaning up their own, our volunteer fire people are not cleaning up their own properties, et cetera, all of this. What do you think, given all of these, that we might actually be able to provide a dumping and disposal site for our citizens and ourselves?
With all the things that need to be addressed, I would say at minimum, a week to 2 weeks. It could be a little longer. Again, I think a key component is either a third-party company like a tree service. We're going to reach out to the fire department to see if there's interest, if they're able to participate at all. We've got to reach out to the county attorney's office on the legal part of things, signage. There's a lot of stuff to do here. So I'd say at least 2 weeks, maybe longer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I just, because, yes, I like how you opened with Iowans being so resourceful. We're already trying to take care of it ourselves, we know. Darren's already encountering brush out there, et cetera, so I appreciate that. So
There's
as,
also a lot of fires going on in places that I'm concerned about.
I
people
agree.
burning. They're burning close to houses, they're burning in places that I just wonder about.
I agree.
I don't know if they would be hauling if we had a place for it, so I'd say
so,
as quickly as you can possibly do it, but make sure that we're not taking any risk. It's a balance.
No
act.
shortcuts, no
Yeah.
shortcuts.
No shortcuts, but at the same time realize that the situation's gonna get worse. We are getting calls. I know Secretary Rhodes has gotten calls. I bet you've got calls. I've gotten calls.
I've got calls.
Emergency management has gotten calls. So we're kind of compiling a list of people. We've been saying, we don't have anything now. If we hear something, we'll get back to you, and keeping phone numbers. But people are having to look for other options, and yeah, it's.
So our first decision here is a site. I mean, nothing moves forward without a site. I'm going to make a motion that we approve contracting with the Milford Township, for the Milford Township site of 10 acres with the appropriate parties in the amount of $900 per acre per annum. And yes, I'm making that because somewhere we got to get moving here.
You're not.
No, I just.
Can I make a friendly amendment?
You can try.
Let it die and
Okay,
Let it die.
do it again.
okay, so I make the motion to negotiate for the 10 acres in the Milford Township up to an acre.
Would you take okay, I'm gonna let that one die and come back to you.
Okay, hold on. All right. May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Sure.
Why not just put in the motion, allows, ask staff to negotiate and not put an amount in it?
This is why negotiate implies back and forth, and what's the allowable time frame here? I'm back to time sensitivity. Time is money. So saying the staff allow them to negotiate, then at what point we ran into on a secondary roads issue that we're still kind of trying to decide what to do next about, what's the time frame and what's the dollar amount, whatever.
I just have a question for Jerry. Jerry, that $900 an acre, was that a recent information that you received?
Yes, Amelia received that information last week.
Yeah.
On Friday.
Some of our previous stuff is based on
I
older
understand that.
information.
No,
so-
I understand that.
Let's just talk a second about where we're going here and deciding on a plan. You've got a lot of things to look at. I was assuming that you would be bringing a final plan back, or hoping you could bring enough of a plan for us to act on by next Tuesday's meeting.
I thought they brought us a plan. I mean, they brought us options.
Okay, then maybe we just need to decide how much we have to decide here and how much we leave up to staff.
Well, I guess kind of going on your question there, that's why I asked, was that amount recent? Because I think some of the other information
Right, I
is
got it.
older.
I understand.
So I'm not sure what a cost actually we're potentially going into.
I can't believe when we're looking at a bill that could exceed, we know just here, $209,000 on a guesstimate, okay? And then I bet we're looking at a $300,000 program we could, given all the devastation, whatever, that we are stuck on $9,000. That's how I am. I want to be respectful of both of you. I do understand that if this land were being rented for crop or whatever, and we know what the lot rent is right now. But I still don't think that anything that we ask the staff to do today can go forward until we know we got a place to put the debris.
That's correct. That's correct. But then let me ask you, are you saying that you're authorizing up to $200,000 to $300,000 for this?
No, I made a very specific motion for $900 per acre for 10 acres to these parties for the Milford Township site. So we could move on then to even then to the other, all those other things they've got to do is negotiating on this 10 acres to save us a couple $1,000s. The key thing they need to do, given the time sensitivity of it, the fears about fire, the people dumping on dish. I mean, time is money, and I'm not sure negotiating on this little piece of it is the best use of our staff time.
So Amelia or Jerry, when you received the information of the $900, is that just something that they came back with? I mean, have you talked with them about any lower rate? Maybe you were kind of saying that, or
Yes. So I had reached out to the property of the tenant farmer and, just inquired about what reimbursement they would like, basically in exchange. And they shared their cash rent, which was $250 an acre for the year. And they shared that they had actually been paid, the $900 an acre by DuPont, which was for the 20-acre site, so it was more than the 10 acres. But since we'd only be using the 10 acres, they wouldn't charge us for the other 10, was how that came around to being just $900 an acre for 10 acres. They had also discussed, the possibility of there's some gravel left underneath where the stover piles were located on those 10 acres. And if it would be possible for the county to scoop the gravel out when we're done using it, or do, get rid of some of the leftover. There's, a few, when they removed the piles, some stover just left over from the piles that are gone on that 10-acre portion, getting rid of those. So if there was a, room for negotiation, a site cleanup aspect, that was something that was discussed as well.
So you're saying that DuPont rented it at $900 an acre?
For a year.
Yes,
For a
that's
year.
the information they provided me. Mm-hmm.
So the owner of the land gets the $250 from the tenant, and the tenant gets $700 or $650. You said the cash rent was $50. That's what the tenant pays the owner. Or were they
I believe
splitting?
that's correct.
Otherwise,
I don't know the details. I just know what the cash rent was versus the DuPont payment.
Does cash rent matter
I don't
to
know how
us?
it was split.
Does not Brian Sampson have control of this land? And as long as the landlord has no objection, Brian Sampson still has control, and the contract would be with Brian Sampson, correct? For this, at least this?
Well, and we reached out to the property owner too, because we wanted to make sure that we had support of the property owner, and
Sure.
the property owner supports what we're proposing to do.
Okay.
He also, expressed interest in working with us long-term also. Would the board like staff to counter the offer? We can certainly approach it from that angle. Is there a special meeting this Friday planned at this stage?
No, and it's 3 more days down the road with everything you've got to do to wait to know what site we have or done. What if you spend your 3 days, you and Amelia and Sandra, spend 3 days trying to find a tree service company, yada, 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 to meet based upon Milford, and then for some reason Milford doesn't go. That's why I said we've got to have a site first. And I understand, I hear, Linda, that you're struggling with that the tenant's gonna get some extra money above the cash rent.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out why we have cash rent here. But more, I'm trying to figure out, how long we think we're gonna need the site for, because I think, that's,
Well, and some of that too has to deal with the proclamation. Amelia, help me out, but I think 30 to 60 days is pretty common for disasters, so you have to work pretty quickly. Go ahead.
we'd probably be burning this.
I don't know necessarily how the date of the proclamation would affect this site since it's county controlled. I don't know if the date of the proclamation expiring affects it.
Well, it might for FEMA reimbursement.
Right.
I think, yeah. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't. It's just for how long can we collect back the money? So,
And just to clarify on the cash rent, I provided that as that's a break-even point for this person.
they volunteered that. They didn't have to tell us. I mean, they didn't,
No.
that was Brian to be transparent, but he had no obligation to tell us what his cost is. That's a private venture.
Okay, so what are people thinking? Let's just talk about that before we make another motion. Do you want to just go ahead and say, you want to ask staff to try to negotiate something shorter than a year lease, or do you want to just go with a year lease and that figure?
I made my motion, you know where I stand.
Supervisor Hiddens, what do you think? What you thinking right now?
Well, that 9,000 would be per year. It's the dollar amount. I do have some concerns with it, but I have to wonder if that's what DuPont was paying them, if they're really going to negotiate. No, I know, but I'm just saying if they'd be willing to negotiate down. If that's what they were getting, my thing is they could probably get that if somebody else wanted to come to them at that particular amount. That's a concern I have. I guess they'll have to come back with us with the whole total of what this would potentially cost so that we can make a final determination as to what exactly we're going to do, if we're going to have other sites, or, other drop-off sites or what.
So let me ask you a question about that one. So any motion you make would be subject to us seeing the final costs. Yes. So the lease would be, that's a good point. The lease would be contingent upon us approving our program. Right.
Right. What if we did this? What if we authorize staff to pursue the Milford site at the 900 an acre annual cost, but ask them to inquire about doing a shorter lease at a proration?
Another aspect to think about too is we've been pitching 10 acres and all the information out there talks about the larger site, the better when you're talking about debris management. But maybe we could work, a negotiation on 7 acres or maybe 5 acres. That may be one way to get the amount down.
I'm beginning to wonder if it's the cost here itself that's the issue, or just kind of a not wanting to lock in or control or something. I hear what the proposal is from you, Linda. So what if we have another deal ratio, okay, et cetera. So in 3 months, heaven forbid, but okay, what if we do? But our lease is expiring in December. I think I'm going to advocate for anything we can keep simple and straightforward in this very complicated because when you FEMA involved situation, I'm for.
Okay, well, here's the issue then. Would we, if we rented this, say, site on an annual basis, would they be willing to allow anything other than tree brush? Because that's all we've been talking about. And you've been looking for a site for 3 years for tornado, whatever it is. Would they be willing to let this site be used for other things, other disaster kind of materials as well? And if so, maybe that's what we should just do, is lock it in for a year with an option to renew, because you've been looking for 3 years and haven't found anything. Is there any reason not to consider that, Jerry?
Yeah, I don't know that the discussions went that direction, Linda, but we certainly can approach that. I mean, we did have agreements with Maxwell and Nevada, but Maxwell was just for vegetative material. Nevada, previous administrator, agreed to all types of material. But again, we're starting over now. We have a new administrator to work with, which we're very excited about.
And I think things can change, and maybe what we do need, because we've got more and more development going on, as you and I have talked about often, in the unincorporated areas, and people expect more, and that doesn't mean, they're moving to unincorporated areas, but the reality is we've got lots more potential for having debris from acts of God, whatever you're going to call them. So maybe it's time that we just, when we've looked at everything in the county and we don't have anything that works, maybe it's time, maybe the $9,000 a year to have that advantage. If we could use it for any kind of debris, as long as we got rid of it eventually, maybe this is our opportunity.
Which is where I've been from where we started here. I appreciate you thinking it through to
Yeah, let's make sure that before we do that $9,000 a year lease, that we have all that flexibility. So someone wants to.
We can definitely inquire about that. I just wanted to add that the property owner and I did discuss, if this was beyond this year, if it was just a permanent site, that they'd be open to it. We didn't discuss the debris types, but their thought was they could plant it in alfalfa or grass so that it wouldn't be like a crop that had to be taken out if we needed to use it, and they could just use that to feed their cattle in the interim until we needed the site again. But we didn't discuss the different debris types, but we can.
Okay, I think if we're gonna look at the 9,000 and look at a year, I think we should explore that and make it
more usable
more usable for us.
So here's my motion.
Okay.
All right. Direct the staff to move forward with securing the tentative agreement, subject to us deciding to go forward with a plan that we get this the land at 10 acres for $900 per acre per annum, and an opportunity to renew annually to accommodate all types of debris.
Second. And make sure I understood your motion.
I understand. I'm thinking out loud, trying to get everything into it.
I think you got it, Shelley. Okay, there's been a motion and a second and a thumbs up by our clerk, so she's got it. Any further discussion on the motion?
None.
If not, Olson.
Aye.
Hens.
Aye.
Merkin, aye. Okay, that was good discussion.
Okay.
But what I'm also hearing is, we obviously need to know, and Jerry, first, let me stop and say, you've done a whole lot of work in a few days that is really, really good, and don't take it that we're saying, what, you don't have all these questions, and I'm just gonna share some. I've got a list of questions that I did before I even looked at your proposal, and I'm gonna tell you, you answered about half of them.
Good.
That's really, okay. I'm gonna get the rest of them to you just so you can consider them as you go along, rather than us going through every single one of them. Fight too, but I think we need to, before we absolutely say, yes, it's a go, we've got to have a better idea, and you have to have a better idea on what we can do with current county resources given the fact that we don't know if there's gonna be FEMA money and that can be used for it or not. So can you come back to us next Tuesday? That gives you a couple more days. We've got you go ahead on the site now.
Right.
So I think we can, if you folks could work, you can work with Mike, see what they can do staffing, see what Darren might be able to do equipment wise. By the way, I'm a little concerned about removing that gravel. You might want to run that by somebody. Think, how would we remove that gravel if it's been under Stover for years? It's a mess.
Yeah, I can share, Linda, that Darren communicated with me last week that if they use county equipment to move any of the material from the private property, that he would need to be reimbursed under state law. So that was a concern that he raised. And so when we started hearing those things, we thought that there wouldn't be any involvement with engineering, secondary roads, or conservation department. And so that's when we started thinking about a third party to assist us.
I'd like to clarify here, just to make sure what Darren's saying is move from or just move it, period. In other words, if a piece of equipment operated by a Story County employee touches a piece at any point, that is what activates it, correct?
That's my understanding.
Resources. Okay.
It's really further complicated by the fact that we may be disposing of some of our own brush that we've gotten out of the right of way. So that might,
But that's where our legal's gonna come in.
and that's for just in terms of what then from FEMA. But the other thing
No, that's
is,
the
I don't
thing.
know that precludes conservation staff from helping. Because he's
Oh.
talking specifically about the secondary roads fund.
If it's state law, isn't it the use of public assets to help private? I think that's the law. Correct, Darren? Are you still on? But
Yeah, I'm
would-
here. What the law I'm referring to is the secondary road fund is protected because it's a fuel tax and can only be used for secondary road purposes. So that locks down the entire secondary road fund for that. But like Linda said, first of all, the timing is a concern for me. We would like to be using that site yesterday. I understand you got a lot to think about here, but timing is an issue. But like I said, if we have the use for our secondary road purposes, we'll have a loader out there already. I mean, we could push some things around as long as it doesn't get out of hand, but a little concerned about the debris side, the housing and grain bins and that type of stuff could be coming in there. So I did notice Jasper County Emergency Management just opened up a site for woody material only in Jasper County. Just so you're aware that's going on. But yeah, that's my only concern. We'd like to be using it as soon as possible. Our current burn site is very small and has some concerns. So we'd like to be using this site as quick as we can.
Well, if you can figure out a way that you can help do that, then you'll have, the advantage of it. I think that's what conservation is also thinking. They're going to have some things that they're going to want to get out there, so it's in their best interest, I think, to help us staff it. And I really appreciate that they're willing to do that. But we need to quickly get a staffing plan, because that's how we're going to determine when we can have it open.
Right. So do we need to have a Friday meeting? What Jerry was saying, I mean, I know we've given instructions for Jerry to check out a lot of things, but it sounds like for our own use, not the public use, but for county use. Huh?
Oh, sorry.
I can't do Friday afternoons.
Okay, all right, but I'm thinking, what I'm hearing here is internally, if we get this lease taken care of, I know that's one more thing on Ethan's plate too, involving another department about, hey, we want everything done right now, legal. But maybe that's what we need to do, is address just the site and knowing what our people can do for our own debris. And then Tuesday, we take a look at accommodating then the public. Does that work for you?
Well, I have Friday morning, I have a summit, Thursday and Friday mornings. The only time I would be available would be Friday afternoon.
And I am not available Friday afternoons.
What time do your virtual summits, right? What time do they start?
Start at 8 a.m. on Friday, 8 till noon.
Okay.
12:30. The question is though, I think what you're saying is Jerry, would you have enough of that info or put together to have the meeting Friday? Or does it matter if you've got the whole packet together and do it on, where you'd have the staffing information as well as the other potential financial information? Because you're still not gonna move forward until you have the financial.
I heard Darren say they would have liked to have started using it yesterday.
Right.
Is Mike Cox on? If not, maybe Darren.
No, I
will
think
speak
they
to
have, I
Mike.
think they have more, I think in conservation, they have more latitude because they don't have roads they have to clear and ditches, I think.
So here's what I can do to accommodate this. If, I know this would drive maybe staff nuts, but if you want to have a 7 a.m. meeting before you guys get on your virtuals at 8, as long as I can do it virtually, okay? So, but I mean, we've got a major disaster here. So a virtual summit versus a major disaster.
I don't disagree. For me, I'm just trying to figure out time-wise, will they have the information they need by Friday versus waiting till Tuesday? I get it that Darren needs it today,
Right.
yesterday, or whatever. I get that. But the things that they need
What
to have in
information?
place. Because that's what, well, like the staffing and,
Oh, okay,
that's
just internal information.
right.
Okay,
Right,
got
right.
it.
Would
All
we
right.
have all of that? And is it something that you would then, on Friday, we still need to have the other information for the Tuesday meeting?
Well, I'm viewing it as the other information for the Tuesday meeting would be for what type of, to go through the RFP, to look at, maybe better estimated costs, if Jerry can get any tree services, to even call them back, et cetera. What it would seem going into Friday's meeting, that this would be, could Mike and Darren put together their information, and could Jerry and Amelia and Sandra have it worked out with on the property?
Jerry and Darren, let me ask you the question. Do you need us to meet on Friday? Would you have something for us to do that would help you move faster if we met on Friday? Or would our regular Tuesday meeting and bring it all to us at one point work as well? And I know you don't know how much you have to do right now. You call it.
I think from my standpoint, the sooner the better. We can reach out to the fire chief to see if they can provide any equipment or resources. If they can't, I think we're going to need to work with a third party, tree service or other, because I don't think, when Mike talks about monitoring, that's what I was trying to communicate, that we could, share in that monitoring the consultant, monitoring the site, keeping track of load information. But somebody still needs to manage the operation, the actual process that's occurring, the actual burning. And I don't think Darren is going to be managing the actual burn.
This is Darren. I think we could probably do some burning on our own, but maybe it can be done in phases where we get it opened up to internal use first and then decide how we're going to open it up to the public maybe a little bit later. But we can manage our debris. So if we can make a decision on that next Tuesday and get the site, paid for and everything and usable for us, we can work out the rest in the next week or so.
Also realize though that I don't want to hold off for a long while on letting residents of the county bring their stuff, because they have even fewer options, some of them, than the county does. My interest in saying, can we do something, has been for the residents of the county primarily. So I just don't want us to say, oh, well, you get the idea.
So I kind of heard two different things. I heard I heard Jerry say the sooner the better, and I heard Darren say we could wait until Tuesday, so I just want to where we're kind of at. I can from home or whatever do a 7 a.m. meeting Friday if we need to do, if that's what we want to do. The thing is, staff would have to come in and, or maybe from home set up to do the Zoom or whatever.
What do you think you would be asking us for on Friday, Jerry, that would hold you up if you had to wait till?
Well, I'm wondering too, board, if it might be optimal for the board to give staff direction to maybe seek out RFPs or requests for services so we can at least get that going, and then the board can decide to use the service or not. And in the interim, we can reach out to the fire chief. We'll have communication with Darren, with Mike, and we'll have additional information to share. But it seems like waiting till Friday or waiting till Tuesday and then doing a request for services, which I have a feeling, I don't know, but I have a feeling that you're probably not going to get a fire department that has people that are able to, because it's volunteer mostly, to be there from 8 in the morning till 5 at night, 5 days a week or 6 days a week. So I'm just wondering maybe if the board should give us direction to at least seek out input from third-party tree services or related companies that can maybe
Hold on
help.
a second. All we would be asking a fire department to do is to do the burn, not to staff it or monitor it. That's what Mike was saying his folks would be willing to do. So I think we almost need to say, what are the tasks, what has to be done, and who, before we say monitor a thing. And that's what I'm concerned about an RFP also, is what are we asking in the RFP for?
So we ask them in the RFP to split out burn services. We ask an itemized, as we listed, you can list everything else and then put burn services separately. So that gives the option about if the fire department says they'll come out and burn it once a week, right, volunteers, then we don't contract for the burn part of it, and we contract for everything else, right? You handle that through an RFP. Leanne, I look at you, you're the RFP expert. Can we do that?
Clarify your question, can you write the RFP that way?
Yeah, can we write the RFP? So that it's a split out, that they give a separate price for managing the burn itself. Yeah. Does that address it?
I just don't know how quickly a turnaround time on proposals we could get.
I am concerned, and we do have in our purchasing policy an emergency. We are allowed to do emergency, but I hear about this is a big contract, so we need to try and give people an opportunity to bid. So that would be a question. What's the minimal amount of time would we want to run, with this RFP? Say, if we can get it out by Thursday morning, say, Jerry, if we approved it, to let you guys go ahead and work that RFP or whatever, get it out on Thursday morning, then with what? Proposals due on Monday afternoon, and on our regular Tuesday board meeting, we open the proposals. I mean, it'll be on the agenda, we just won't know what the proposals look like until Tuesday morning. That's just something I'm throwing out about meeting the time frame. We've got an emergency here.
If it's a bid proposal, I think you have to do a public hearing, don't you?
Okay, thank you, Shelley.
And that has to be published in the paper.
Oh, there's got to be emergency ability to deal with this. So I guess that would be Sandra or Leanne, and I'll leave it to the two kind of split about, which one of you's got time. It's not like because we're giving you a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, poor Ethan again, okay? Can you guys figure that out? If we've got an emergency, an ability to shorten up that process in an emergency.
Maybe we're thinking that we have to have everything done at once. If we get this place staffed and monitored and secured in some way of documenting what we're bringing in, I think the part about burning this and all of that will come later. And I'm not saying, gee, let's get into this and then find out we can't burn. We know we can burn there. We just don't know how. Maybe we don't have to have everything figured out, right? Excuse me, right away. Maybe we need to just sit down, and Sandra and Jerry figure out what we need to do right away to open it, and then what other things we can decide later on.
I'm still here. I lost the video, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, apologize.
We'll see you.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to have a site, so we'll work with that. We'll start talking to Darren and Mike and figure out what monitoring actually means. We're going to reach out to the fire chief to see, you know, what equipment, or if there's any equipment involved, what assistance they can provide on the burn, and then we can get back to the board. You know, whatever we learn within a day or two, we could put together an email too, correct? I mean, we could just give the board an update that way, which might help to make decisions about whether or not you need a meeting.
Right, and in it, I don't know if this qualifies as an emergency situation anymore to allow us to waive the 24 hours notice, but certainly we can put together a meeting in 24. Somehow, at some point, sometime. And we don't have to, we can go back to just a phone meeting. We don't need to have the Zoom activated.
We can do it with conference call. We did it.
Right.
Conference call, we can do that with conference call.
Okay, so the board would like to hold off then on the request for services?
Well, I don't have any problem making the motion from the standpoint of, but I don't know that we have enough information about what motion to make exactly. That's real, process motion. I don't think we know yet.
No, I agree, and I know what you're saying, Jerry, about, you know, do we want to give direction on an RFP? I don't think, I'm not quite sure what that would look like yet until maybe you get some of this other information for us.
And how long do we have to? Do we have to publish in an emergency?
Yeah, that we don't know. That's gonna give us some direction.
Thank you, Shelley, for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Good job.
I don't know.
Yeah. So if I were one of our very dedicated staff, whether it be you or Darren or Mike or Shelley and Leanne and Sandra sitting here or whatever, I would feel very like, wow, if they open their mouths and give us one more task today. So thank you in advance to everybody, and Ethan, and so.
Well, we want to make sure we're doing it right.
Well, yeah, we
You
need
want to
to.
do the good discussion, and if we're looking at things long term, you want to make sure you've done everything correctly to set it up that way.
I'm going to make a suggestion.
Okay.
And this is to Jerry and Amelia. If you sit down and start drafting out the kind of things you would be putting in an RFP for services, the steps and duties that would need to be done, or the tasks, that might help you think of some alternate ways of doing them. Exactly what is it we're asking for? I think that's really important. And I'm still contending, we've got some staff who are volunteering some things. Darren is saying maybe there's some possibilities from his end. I just think when and I'll underline it again, when we're talking about 6 figures and maybe not low 6 figures, and we're talking about not knowing if we get some FEMA reimbursement or not, I think keeping it simple, utilizing our existing resources as we can makes a lot of sense. We're not talking about hauling stuff. We said all it is going to be people dropping stuff off. You know, we're going to have some staff. We could have some county staff there who are willing to monitor it, make sure people aren't putting trash in. They can also tell people, dump it over there. You know, we're not letting people just dump stuff all over. We could do a bit of this, I think, ourselves. And I think we need to think about that because we are looking potentially at taxpayer money.
Oh, yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it. I'll just go back, Loris, and you were looking at Assistant Auditor Markley's reports the other day, and you said, well, it looks like we have 400,000 surplus to take care of all these things. Well,
There it went.
okay, there it would go, and we don't know what other things might come up. So I would ask you first to try to do some task analysis on what needs to be done, and then look back, talk to Mike, talk to Darren, think of other county resources.
Winter hasn't even been here yet, so we don't know what else.
And winter hasn't even been here yet. We don't know what winter's gonna bring. We're in the second month of this fiscal year, folks.
So my question now to all of the people that we've handed out tasks or whatever is, or just like my invitation, is if there's something that we supervisors could do, individually to help you do something. And I know, Supervisor Merkin has been really throwing out a lot of good ideas, and I think we're starting to get there and say, but please don't hesitate to ask us, including if you need research or whatever. I mean, I think we all three understand what we're asking you guys to do. So if there's some way that we can provide some of the background or elbow grease, let us know. Okay, thank you.
So next Tuesday, is that what we're looking at?
For an update.
Unless there's something they come up with that we've got to have a special meeting to authorize something to activate something.
Okay.
Okay, Jerry, like I said, you've done a lot of work in a few days. There's a lot ahead on it, and let us know how we can help.
Okay. Thank you very much, Board.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amelia. Appreciate all your work.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you all.
Good.
Let's go on then to environmental health quarterly report. Margaret, you're on, I see. Would you
Yes,
like? Good morning.
Hey.
Good afternoon. How are you? What would you like to highlight or tell us about your report?
Well, pretty much standard. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. The way that the storm impacted some of the programs that we work on is, number one, the septic systems that lost power. They are having to be pumped routinely, and people are having to really cut back on water. And then for the wells, if it's a private well that they're using for potable water, they will probably or should be shocked and then tested afterward, because when you have a power outage, you can be drawing in bacteria into your pressurized system. So those are the main things that are going on. Otherwise, business as usual down here, septics, and we're not as busy with the wells because of COVID and not wanting to put staff in harm's way. Let's see, I think that's about all I really need to say. Everything is pretty self-explanatory from the report. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, Margaret, in that you gave a presentation to the public health leadership that I'm in and did a very nice job.
Thank you.
Presentation. Yeah, I didn't realize you were on the agenda until I pulled up the agenda that day. And I'm like, what that is.
It's hard speaking to no one, because the audience was not up on the screen, and that was the first real feedback I've heard from someone in the audience, and so thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
You did a nice job.
Margaret, my question does have to do then with testing on the wells. So should we do some kind of public service announcement or news release about reminding people to get tested, and then who do you tell them to do the testing? Is there a list of firms?
Well, no, we will come out and do that. That's what our grant covers. We will gladly come out and do that. And let's see, so yes, the website we're posting, and then that's a great idea though. I could ask Leanne to mention it. I believe tomorrow she's on the radio. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that would be an excellent thing, and I could write up something for her to read to the public.
And then maybe she could even just send it out, just press release it out, because there's another one for Leanne's list. Okay, but yeah, just
Good idea.
because some people, especially if this is their first time living in the country or whatever, might not understand that.
Yes,
need.
yeah. So
Okay,
many
thanks.
people are on rural water now, though. We have really not a whole lot, depending on their wells for potable.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret, I see you have complaints, burning, Skycrest subdivision, burning near Maxwell. Were those debris? Or
Yes.
those, these are even before?
All the burning complaints were prior to the 10th, Monday, the 10th. We have not received any complaints on burning since the storm. I think everyone understands what's going on.
You presented this report to the Board of Health meeting that we just had last week as well.
That's interesting. You haven't gotten any. That's good, because you're right. Everybody understands that it's different timing. Okay. Okay, that's all I had.
Okay.
My other one is, what about that red water in the creek in Story City? What did that end up being?
So DNR was left to handle it because it's multiple counties. We still think it might be that sign company that's on the west side of Story City, but DNR went in there and sort of did a walk around and did not see anything. But I think we'll be ready for them next summer, hopefully. So as we stand now, there's been no knowledge of who is responsible for that yet.
Thank you. Now I'm done.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other reports, we have Leanne Harder up again on the county submittal to the American Wind Energy Association's County Seal Program.
I won't take long. I just have good news to share. Earlier this summer, Supervisor Merkin sent me a link to report where Story County was in regards to our wind energy programs. Just to update where we were with regulations, the capacity within Story County, manufacturing opportunities, businesses, job training. It was a multitude of different questions. Actually, I thought it was just a survey on where they were going that we typically get. I did get an email then early part of August, August 7th, saying it was an application to the American Wind Energy's Wind County Seal Program. And Story County is the recipient of the Silver County Seal Award designation. And it's for the county's engagement with wind industry, educational programs, and/or manufacturing producers. So there are the seals are gold, silver, and bronze. Throughout the state of Iowa, there were 7 gold, several silvers, and I think a couple bronze. There was a virtual ceremony last week, August 12th at 2 p.m. The governor was recognized by the American Wind Energy Association as well for her contribution to wind energy throughout the state. It was downplayed a lot because of derecho, and the governor, in fact, was out doing inspections, I think, in Cedar Rapids or somewhere at that point throughout the state. So I'm here today to share the news again with you, and we are still waiting the official certificate. Once that comes, we'll find an appropriate place, and it still needs some additional information, but once I get that, I'll send a press release out.
So were you able to virtually attend
Yes,
the
I
ceremony?
did. Yeah, I should have said that. I did. And I think I forwarded that invite.
Yeah, you
to
did.
everyone.
You did say it was later that week. That one I saw. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very short, sweet, very well done.
Good. Okay.
I think 20 some minutes. We did hear from all the gold recipients,
Okay.
and those are the generally where the community colleges are and where the manufacturing entities truly are. But we've worked really hard to get Story County where we are with wind energy, and probably continue to work towards that gold seal as appropriate.
Congratulations. Great.
Any questions for me?
Thank you
Thanks
for
for being
doing that. Thank you for the survey, doing the survey and getting us an award we didn't know that we were applying for.
That's
Yes.
right.
Okay, upcoming agenda items. It sounds like next Tuesday we'll be talking more about debris management and be much closer to a plan. Any other things that are coming up? Anybody wants to comment about or remind us of?
Not that I'm aware of at this particular time.
Not that I'm aware of. Lisa, have you heard anything back from John Passion yet about his initial conversation with you?
I have not yet, and I'm assuming they're probably working.
That's what I assumed
Working
too.
on
I mean,
that.
that was just last Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. But I just wondered if you'd heard like a timeline. Anyway, so no, I don't have anything on the agenda. Other than that, I guess tomorrow we'll discuss a little bit about building reopenings or whatever. So that's moving closer, but I don't think that'll be next week.
Okay, I don't have anything either that I'm thinking of at the moment. So public forum number 2 is for comments from the public on items not on the agenda because of the open meetings law. We would not be taking any action on anything now, but we do so in the future. So I'll open public forum number 2. Ask if there are any comments. Is there anybody from the public on this Zoom session would like to comment? If so, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Seeing nobody, I'll close public forum number 2 and go on to liaison assignments, committee meeting updates, and announcements from the supervisors. Supervisor Olson, you want to start this time?
I think, this is my down week. Kind of one of the ones where I don't have a lot. I think the biggest one is the hunger collaboration and the food pantry group are going to meet jointly virtually, okay, to discuss now what's going on, okay, after duration, and bring that up to date. And then of course next Tuesday, I will tonight watch the in-city council meeting about their discussion about face masks, and then we've got jurisdictional meeting on Thursday night, and then next Monday night is the Grant 5 public meeting, public input session and meeting on whether we're on annexation of additional lands.
Correct, so I have similar with you, the CCMT meeting tomorrow. I do have the Iowa Rural Summit, which is a virtual summit, so Thursday and Friday, and also have the jurisdictional meeting Thursday night, Grant 5 on Monday. I did have the Assistant Children's Mental Health meeting yesterday. That was canceled because of some folks who partaken in it still didn't have internet access from the various counties that we are serviced under our region. The Boost board meeting did meet last night, and the predominantly this discussion was their finishing up end of fiscal year reports that will go to the state, and then seeking out some additional board members.
Did Boost, are they starting to get a bit of feel on what kind of child care / early education programs might be not reopening soon?
That was a good question. That was something that came up last night. They're still gathering some of that information, so we will have it. The new director will either email that out to us and I'll forward to you, or might be waiting until the next meeting. There has been that child care group that I was a part of that was meeting, and it has not met for a while. Well, we've had another emergency situation that has come up, so that has not met. But we did talk about reaching out to Jerry Baumeister with United Way, who was kind of helping lead that particular charge. So hopefully I'll have some additional information and I can share that with you.
Got it, thanks.
Okay. I have a zoning workshop this afternoon, FEMA webinar, and a Test Iowa team call. All kind of at the same time, a little bit.
So Linda, did you get the link for that planning and zoning workshop through ICAP?
No, I'm not sure that I have it.
So, and the reason I asked that is because I had it on my calendar too. I know I signed up for it today, and then when I went in, they told me that no, I was not signed up for today. They said 2 people were signed up for September 8th. And so I then signed up for September 8th.
I don't know, I'll check.
So just wanted to let you know,
Okay,
you might
thank
want to
you.
follow up with
Yeah.
them. That's what I just found
I
out.
figured I probably had plenty of work to do if I couldn't get in it anyway. And the Rural Summit, we're all continuing to do interviews for new members of Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustment. I think in a couple of weeks will be the point of putting it on the board agenda and getting those all reconstituted. And Grant 5 Drainage District next Monday evening, and I think that about does it. That's all I have.
We're busy.
We're all, we seem to have stuff on top of, disaster on top of disaster, and let's hope for good news for everybody. I've been talking to lots of people from around the county who have been calling about this county pickup debris, and I've been hearing reports of lost 20 trees, lost 30 trees, lost a whole, windbreaks have really suffered. I have heard about a couple barns and houses that seem to be, you're wondering about if their foundations are still good. They've kind of moved on the foundations. In fact, I think I've got the name of one person I might call back and talk about the damage assessment link that's on our website. It's on emergency management's website that is for individual assistance under FEMA. And if anybody is members of the public are on right now and have some damage, go to our website, emergency management agency, and there's a link to do a damage assessment report for individual assistance, which I guess is what's going to come with presidential proclamation of disaster. So I think there's lots of information to get out to people, and I'm sure people are feeling inundated right now, but I think there's significant damage in a lot of this, particularly the smaller communities. I know Roland and Paulsburg got hit bad, and Slater got hit bad, and it's just going to be a long digging out. So that's all I got. So I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Hens.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Merkin. Aye. We are adjourned.